It's your boy Reggie Black back with another edition of GPI Game Plan Insights. And before we get started, I want to share my appreciation for y'all because, it's hard trying to make content in this YouTube space. People are trying to put out the same content as you. People are trying to, better themselves. And the fact that I'm getting, views, starting on this journey, honestly, I didn't think I was gonna be able to get views. I didn't think I had the personality or the confidence to just talk on camera. And even sometimes I stutter with what I'm trying to say. Like, I know what I want to say, but sometimes I just don't get to the point and I stutter. And but I think the more repetition I have, and practice being behind the camera is so easy for me. So I appreciate y'all just for subscribing and, watching the whole video through. Even if y'all not watching, all of it, just watching, the most important parts that I'm talking about. But we're still grinding. We're still under control. We're going to make sure that, we can at least get to 50 subscribers and then work our way up from there. I have been thinking about doing a show name change. I don't know if the show is going to still be called GPI Game Plan Insights. Maybe still will be, but I've been thinking about different logo, a different name and a different logo for my YouTube channel. Maybe it's just gonna be my name, The Reggie Black Show. Sport, I don't know. But just if y'all like Game Plan Insights, leave in the comments. If y'all don't, still leave in the comments and then put your suggestions in what should I name my show. I might keep GPI, but I've been thinking about it long and hard about maybe the title of the name of my YouTube needs to be changed, just cause how long it is, and I don't know if it fits, but it was a cool concept when first coming up with it. But you gotta be able to adapt, and when you're able to adapt, you can have more ideas. I'm trying to think if there's anything else that I want to address. Oh yeah, another thing is, I think in a couple videos ago, or last video, I said I was a college student. So I've been transitioning out of my dormitory, of course. At the time I'm recording this video, I already transitioned now, but today is the last official day of me being on campus. Hence you see the background, me being at the campus one more time for a very special event, and just in the process of transitioning back home for the summer and fulfilling duties such as my internships and all that stuff. So the next time you might see my next video, background may be a little different, but I'm gonna try to make sure I still produce great content for y'all. So let's talk about the Thunder and Timberwolves last night. Excellent game until the end. SGA struggled in the first half. I think he went 2 of 13 from the field, and then 0 of 3 from the three-point line, if I'm not mistaken. But he didn't shoot the ball well. But he had 11 points. He was their highest scorer. And then he turned up in the second half. I think he scored 20 of his 31 points in the second half after scoring 11 in the first half. So, MVP shows why when it comes to the challenge, they're willing to step up. And I think when we about to find out that Shai's the MVP, you understand why he was MVP this year. Nothing against Joker, nothing against all the other players and superstars that had a great season. But I think it was time for Shai to get MVP finally, because he's been showing the consistency the past few seasons, in terms of him scoring. And, with him scoring and leading that Thunder team to the Western Conference Finals, them potentially making the NBA Finals since, I want to say 2012 with the Westbrook, Durant, and Harden teams. You see why he will be announced MVP eventually. I'm not going to talk about the X's and O's from this game, honestly, because I was supposed to do a preview and prediction video, but with me transitioning and all that, I just haven't done it. So we just gonna get straight into the game. So watching the highlights before turning on this camera and recording, Minnesota started off strong. Minnesota, they went up, I want to say, by 8 points. Jay McDaniel scored the first 5 points. And then, as you know, it was 10-3, but then Minnesota started turning the ball over. And when you turn the ball over and at least the points off turnovers, you let a team like the Thunder get back in it, and then you let the home ground get riled up. And I think that's what happened. It was just the unnecessary turnovers to me by Minnesota. And I didn't look at the stats, how many turnovers, but just looking at it, it's like, they got too many turnovers for my liking, especially on the road. And I think, Minnesota did so well not turning the ball over that much that they made Golden State try to play an offense that it was difficult to play. But, you're playing a different team. You're playing a team that is trying to avenge the semifinals loss against the Mavericks. And you're playing a team that is hungry, just as you are. This Thunder team, they have not gotten their respect all season long. Like, people forget, they were the number 1 seed. And they locked up the number 1 seed by January. Like, think about that. What they did was Warrior-esque almost. Like we knew the Thunder was going to be the number 1 seed heading to the playoffs probably by February, January, maybe earliest, maybe. Like, when they went on that little hot streak and then other teams below them started losing games they had no business losing to, and Thunder's winning games that they had no business winning to at the same time, and everybody knew Thunder was destined to be the number 1 seed. It was just about how they were going to perform in the playoffs. And at times they showed, are they about to get exposed again? But then there were times they showed, hey, we are different now. We learned from our mistakes last year. So it's good seeing a young Thunder team rise and, keep proving their doubters wrong. So I'm very impressed with the Thunder in terms of what they're doing in that aspect. And give the coach, Mark, I don't want to butcher his last name, but I know his last name starts with a D. I think Dragonaut or something like that. Dagonaut, maybe Dagonaut. I am surprised he did not win Coach of the Year. I felt, again, maybe, I don't know if he won it last year. If he won it last year, then I can understand why. But I don't even think he won it last year. The dude took the Thunder team to be number 1 seeds, top 3 seeds back-to-back years since he's becoming the coach. And it's okay, well, kept building, and now we're not about to give him credit. So, honestly, it's crazy, but that's just the reality we live in when it comes to NBA voting. So, looking at the highlights, I felt like the Minnesota had, I wouldn't say too many turnovers, but they just had inexplicable turnovers. And when you have inexplicable turnovers, at least the fast break points, and fast break points and transition points come off points off turnovers. So I didn't look at the full stats of what the points off turnovers was, but I wouldn't be surprised if OKC probably got maybe at least 10 points off turnovers, at least, easily. But that's what happens. You can't go on the road, expect to win, and then you turn the ball. You just can't. It doesn't work like that. So give OKC credit for bringing themselves back into the game in terms of, when it was time to close it out and all that stuff. Now I want to address the elephant in the room. What is Julius Randle doing these playoffs? And I'm not even saying that because he's been a bum. It's this man just has had a revelation of a playoff. And, in 2020 hindsight, it was the right move to trade Julius Randle because he didn't fit with Cat. But, hindsight 2020, it's if we knew this man, Julius Randle, was going to be the best, version of himself, maybe we should have kept him. Maybe, I say we, I'm a Knicks fan. Maybe the Knicks should have kept him. And hindsight 2020 was a good idea, but maybe now it's not, looking back at it. But, the Knicks are in the Eastern Conference final, and I think they play tonight against the Pacers. I do have the Knicks winning that series. I don't think Knicks will get hurt again like they did last time. I was calling for Tom Thibodeau's job before the playoffs started. I felt like if he would have lost to Boston in 5 or 4 or 5, maybe he should have got fired. But because they are in the Eastern Conference Finals, maybe he gets one more year. But 5 first-round picks for Mikal Bridges, that's still going to be like, ugh. I don't know. But, for me, I think OKC, what they did last night was establish, like, hey, we are the number one seed for a reason, Minnesota. You're not if you really want to be honest, they probably looking at Minnesota like, but y'all had a cupcake schedule, honestly. Let's just be honest. Y'all beat the Lakers size-wise, like, literally. JJ literally was the rookie coach. He got out-coached by y'all coach. Y'all were down in the Warriors series before Steph got hurt. And then once he got hurt, y'all took advantage. So credit to y'all. Like I said last video, good teams, good to great teams do what they supposed to do. When the opposing superstar players down, you take advantage. And that's what Minnesota did. After Steph went down, they won 4 straight. Now, I already made my video about Steve Kerr and Draymond and all of them. But, you got to give Minnesota credit. But let's talk about Anthony Edwards. 18 points, 5 of 13 shooting. He did hurt his ankle. I don't know if it was that same ankle, but he did hurt it again. And he got back in the game. And how do I want to put this? Anthony Edwards has not been the best player in the playoffs. He hasn't even been the best player on his team in these playoffs. If you really want to be honest, it's been Julius Randle. And Julius Randle last night had 28 points with 9 of 13 shooting. It's not like the dude was struggling. Like he might could have put up more shots, but he was hitting the shots. He was hitting his shots. Like 9 of 13 is good. I think it's like 68, 67%. So he was hitting his shots. But Anthony Edwards got to step up. It's been like, if you really want to be honest, what has been the best Anthony Edwards game in this playoffs? Like from start to finish. Maybe the 40 plus point game that he had in the first round against the Lakers. Maybe that game, possibly. You could say maybe the 30-point game, but he wasn't great at the start. And he always pops up these second half, and it's like, Anthony Edwards, you are a superstar in this league, a budding superstar. You cannot be starting off struggling every single game and think you can pick yourself up. Not every game. Maybe a game occasionally here and there, but not every game. So, game 2, I think it's Friday. I want to say Friday. Game 2 is Friday. I think the Western Conference Finals is like every 3 days. So, game 2 is on Friday. And I expect Anthony Edwards to, show up. Because I think if OKC wins, Minnesota will have a lot of pressure on them going to Minnesota and trying to take 2 away from OKC. And I think OKC is the type of squad that will get 1. I think that's how they're looking at it. Like, hey, if we protect home court, if we get one of the 2 in Minnesota, no matter which one, just one of the 2 in Minnesota, we can close it out and we can close it out back at home, and then we get an extended rest. But if we think about OKC been up in these matchups, it's just that last matchup, Anthony Edwards was benched, and you don't want to bench your best player. I'm not advocating for Anthony Edwards to be benched, but if you're asking yourself, Chris Finch needs to ask himself, like, hey, like, do I need to play meaningful stretch without Anthony Edwards? Because when we look back at it, we did win a game where Anthony Edwards was benched, for the final, I want to say 7 minutes because he was in foul trouble and he was injured. Like, we did come back, like, from 20 down without him. So, like, the question becomes, like, can Anthony Edwards rise to the occasion? I think he can, but can he? And if he can, do you possibly, and this is just a possibly, can you possibly bench him in stretches where, you put your best defensive lineup out there? Because Anthony Edwards is favoring that ankle. I don't care what nobody say. He's favoring that ankle. And your ankle is important in terms of lateral quickness and, moving and shooting, and, when you're shooting, jumping down on your ankle too. So, like, let's just see. honestly, I would not be surprised if I'm Chris Finch, I would experiment maybe 5 minutes without Anthony Edwards and see how it goes. Because, or maybe I wouldn't say 5 minutes, but longer stretches without Anthony Edwards. So, like, you know, when it comes to crunch time, yeah, you might be in the lineup, but let's give them that element of surprise. That's just for me. If I'm talking different, I want to apologize. You know, no stuffy, of course, allergy season. But, you know, with Anthony Edwards, I just feel that, you know, he will be, you know, it's time for him to step up. You know, I know he say he don't want to be he don't want to be the face of the league, but, you know, people has that pedestal on you, you know. And, you know, you're the first American that people truly likes. A lot of people don't like Jason Tatum because they think he's fake in some way, which or form. And, you know, there's no other American. Like, the top players are international. Jokic, Giannis, Shea, Luka. That's 4 of the 5 international before we can even hit American. So, you know, it is what it is in terms of that game. Like I said, I wasn't going to talk about the X's and O's. I was just going to talk about what I saw. And, you know, OKC guy showed up in the second half, and Shea didn't shoot his bet, and he still got 31. Yeah, maybe the free throws he did shoot a lot of free throws. I want to say 13 free throws, went 12, 13. So he did shoot a lot of free throws, but, you know, just imagine if he's efficient. And, you know, like I said, I think this is a good matchup for Julius Randle because Chet and Isaiah Hartenstein aren't, like, they're more finesse players than big body players, big and strong players. Like, they're strong, but they're more like a finesse type style. So, you know, like I said, my prediction series, I think OKC probably wins it, and I want to give Minnesota the respect that they deserve. Some say 7, just with respect. But I think Game 2 is going to be definitely crucial. If Minnesota don't win Game 2, I could see this series ending in 5. I could just see it. Because I think Minnesota will take one, and OKC will take one, and they're going to try to close it out in 5. I think Minnesota, them having too much, like, because you got to think about it, they've been gentlemen sweeping their opponents, but there hasn't been real competition either. Like, Steph got hurt, Lakers quit, and it's like, dang, like, when somebody's going to give them real competition, in a sense, like, hey, they're going to be pushed to their limits. And this is the first team, these playoffs, that is really giving them, like, tough luck and trying to push them to their limits. So this is the next game. The Game 2 is crucial for Minnesota. I think OKC wins that, but Minnesota, no, they're desperate. They're desperate because I think if they lose to because OKC is thinking we can go to Minnesota and take one. We can. If we can't, then we don't deserve to be in the NBA Finals. But, you know, like I said, we always say, it's not a sprint, it's a marathon. These playoffs has been a marathon. They've been excellent. And, you know, this is the first time that the point guard, you know, is your first or second best player. Like, they're going to be the reason they win the championship. For the Pacers, it's going to be Tyrese Halliburton. For the Knicks, Jalen Brunson. For the Timberwolves, of course, Anthony Edwards. And for the Thunder, SGA. So, you know, I think this playoff's been exciting. And, you know, I can't wait for Knicks and Pacers tonight. Get my opinion on that if I can. And, you know, I might just watch the playoffs and I ain't react until we get to the finals. You know, like I said, football season's almost back. So I'll definitely want to make a previews and predictions series for, you know, my team, the Commanders, and what I think their record is, and what do I think is going to be the keys to the season for the Commanders to get back to where they want to get, which is the NFC Championship game and potentially a Super Bowl. So, like I said, I appreciate y'all for watching this edition of GPI. May be changing soon. Don't know yet. Don't quote me on that as well. Like, comment, share, subscribe. Share with all your friends. Share with all your people that you know. Tell them to subscribe to me. I greatly appreciate it. And we are out, and I catch y'all in the next video. Deuce.